And welcome back to the Hot Lap, to the rally news. We're pretty much talking about the future, the big grand plan for rally, including a certain Thierry Neuville, who is not retiring, apparently, despite the comments he made. He's come out and said, no, I'm not retiring. I think he was just talking about possibly retiring depending how rally goes in the future. And the future is very important. And here's the thing, what's changing in the World Rally Championship? The FIA responds in a video, which we'll see in a second. This is from rallyjournal.com. Now, already next season, as we know, the hybrid used in the Rally 1 cars will, for me personally, I'm happy that they're gone. Too expensive, more teams, more drivers. Now, in addition, the restrictor will be reduced, meaning this air intake for the engine will be decreased. Now, the aerodynamics of the Rally 1 cars will also be reduced, including shrinking the rear wing, among other changes. Now, at the same time, a WRC kit can be purchased for Rally 2 cars, allowing these cars to challenge the first class cars in the World Rally Championship for the 25 and 26 seasons until entirely new rules come into effect for 2026. Now, the WRC kit is reportedly includes, among things, increasing the air intake for the engine and a larger rear wing. All this constitutes quite a complex mix, so to speak, which only insiders of the sport are going to understand. Perhaps for this reason, the FIA have released a video on its social media. I'm gonna prep by putting my ears on, otherwise we get so much reverb. But this is quite an interesting video in relation to the future of rally. So please bear with me as I set it up. I mean, I'm really excited for the future of rally. We are going to have more teams. Fingers crossed. Let's hope we have more teams. That'll be fantastic. Okay, here we go. There we go. Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, it looked like when you kiss out your Gran Turismo car, didn't it? But I mean, I think that's quite interesting. Now, the intention here, it says on rallyjournal.com, is certainly good. The premier class of the Rally Championship suffers from a shortage of cars, as in we need more manufacturers. Now, with that quick fix, the WRC kit, there's hope for potentially bringing Skoda and Citroën into the top class. Absolutely. This would improve the opportunities for private drivers to compete against the top stars of the WRC. It remains to be seen how well the rules, they will work in practice. It's all good talking about it, but how they're going to be in practice is another thing. For example, the problem with the current point system. It may have looked good on paper to some. It didn't. I don't think it did to many, though. But there we go. Now, the FIA is set to finalise the technical rules at its meeting in June. The World Rally Championship continues in Kenya in just over a week's time at the time of recording this. Are you excited? I'm excited. I mean, yes, rally. And it's obviously slightly earlier. What's that going to do to the weather? The promoter, next up, our story, the Grand Plan, the promoter of the World Rally Championship has unveiled a grand plan. So the Canary Islands, as we know, have confirmed their participation in the WRC next year. Negotiations have already taken place between the WRC promoter and Paraguay, with the promoter expressing a desire to add another race in South America. Just getting that, there we go, so we can read. So it's a work in progress, according to Peter Thorne. But he said, one thing I can tell you, our idea is to have 2 rallies in South America. Awesome. Which one it will be, time will tell. Chile is already included. Now, the Saudi Arabia, he said, though, is a long-term project. We're quite optimistic that it will come soon. He said we're also thinking about the new tarmac possibilities. At the moment, it's all a work in progress, but I hope in some weeks we know more. Now, the promoter aims to expand the calendar to 14 races. He said this is the target. It would be more. We have to talk to the manufacturers because this is what we said, Thol confirmed. In addition to the aforementioned countries, the WRC promoter is eager to enter the US market and is also interested in China's vast potential. We haven't visited China yet, he said, but we are in contact with the Chinese Automotive Federation. It's a mid to long-term project, especially since the country was fully reopened last year. Hence, there hasn't been an F1 race there for a while until this year. But we have to plan our steps carefully. We are already in contact with them. We are collecting some ideas, and as soon as there's something more concrete, he said, we'll definitely go there. Now, while China might not join the calendar immediately, the US has already hosted a candidate race. He said, I think China is the biggest car market at the moment, close to the US, and therefore it's important to go there where the manufacturers are for sure. And yeah, I think he's absolutely right. We need to go where the manufacturers are, and you can't. Can you call yourself a World Rally Championship without being in the US? I mean, yes, you still can, but I can understand why WRC would want a place in the US. And what I think is going to be interesting is where in the United States would they go? I mean, there's so many choices. It's such a massive country. And you imagine something near the Grand Canyon, you know, on that rear, you know, on the dusty roads or something. But wherever you go, I think wherever they choose it, it's going to be very, very nice to look at, I imagine. So last but not least, we've got Neuville's alternative master plan to fix the WRC. Do you agree? Well, let's read on, shall we? This is from dirtfish.com. So the current WRC points leader, he's criticised the recent technical changes for the championship. There was a hullabaloo last week about whether Terry Neuville wanted to stay or go from the World Rally Championship. As we know, as we said at the beginning of the video, that has all been sorted now. So Neuville is here to stay so long as the manufacturers apparently do likewise. And obviously Honda need to give him a deal. I can't see that not happening at the moment unless he completely does a 180 in terms of how he's doing at the moment, leading the championship. But it's worth digging into, the article says, how the whole narrative came about. It was a misunderstanding from a point of view focused on this new direction of the WRC regulations, or at least the proposed regulations from that World Motorsport Council meeting a few weeks ago. Remember, it's not been confirmed, it's just talk. It's going to be confirmed, well, more concrete confirmed, let's say, in June. Now, Neuville doesn't think it's right, and he pointed out that if all the manufacturers walk, it would be the end of his WRC career, but not by choice. So forget the supposed big news. What about the big picture? Neuville said, I was surprised by the number of changes and how aggressive the changes were in such a short period. He said, I think everybody was surprised. Dirtfish says that's a fair comment. WRC working group have been put together to try and fix rallying's future and had seemingly left no stone unturned, with almost every aspect of rallying's top level being tweaked. Neuville, though, he's argued that too many stones were unturned. Some elements of the WRC needed adjusting, he thinks, but maybe not as much. He said, for me, it needs stability in the regulations until the end of 2026. These 2.5 years now to build something for 2027, which guarantees you to have a new manufacturers. That's what we all want. And he went on to saying we all need to sit together and say, listen, we are in a tricky situation. We think it's preferable to develop regulations for 2027, keep the stable regulations now until 2026 with the manufacturers who are there. There will be no other manufacturers joining in a transition period like now, but new manufacturers need regulations to start preparing for 2027. So it's all about common sense and just taking the time to discuss together and find solutions for problems we face at the moment. This is where Neuville wants to make a distinction, the article says. The promotion of the championship is one thing, technical regulations another. He's pleased to see the founding of a unit to focus on that, promoting the WRC, when he says, in terms of promotion, we were not on the level where we should be. So it's been mentioned many times that we are carrying on with rallying like it has been done 40 to 50 years ago today. But today, rallying cannot continue in that way. That's why, he says, we, all teams, all crews, gave a long letter with a lot of proposal for better promotion of the championship and the changes we need to bring. I'm very happy to see some of those decisions that have been taken on the promotional side go in a good direction. Varied rally lengths and less rigid event formats gets a thumbs up. And I like varied rally lengths. I like them to be more varied. Rally, once again, let's be fair, rally is an endurance. I get it, you want maybe little sprint stages, but you also want those mega long stages as well, where you can really, really make up time. It really is risk reward. You're not going to make up, 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds against the top guys unless there's massive mistakes on a really, really short sprint. But you may just do that on an extra long endurance. Anyway, He did. He gets a thumbs up, a good way to start in relation to the varied lengths and rigid event formats, and less rigid even, sorry. And there's even addition to the promotion task force within the FIA, saying, I think it's a very good point because the FIA probably needs to put more pressure on the current promoter. And he said, but then there's the caveat of all of this good news, but I don't think it needs all these technical rate changes now. Stability is hard to find against a backdrop of uncertainty in the world of automotive. One element of the Plan 26 regulations highlights this. The new safety cell is going to be designed to hypothetically fit, and it is hypothetically because, as we don't know yet, but fit any powertrain, any engine, whether that's combustion engines, electric, hydrogen, not bad, or something else. Now, as Andrew Wheatley, the FIA Road Sport Director, explained a few weeks ago, one of the design criteria is that Xavier Mester, I'm going to get that name wrong, the FIA Technical Director, let's say, is working to ensure that we can put whatever technology into the safety cell so that this is a part of an ongoing, let's say, future-proof concept for that principle. The article then does go on, but they're talking about the fact that when that's set to happen, it could potentially have a headache for the Rally 1 manufacturers. They can't risk these regulations being beaten by a souped-up Rally 2 machine, as Toyota team principal Lavella has pointed out. And Neuville agrees. He said all the manufacturers who stay in Rally 1 will be stupid to invest so much money and not be able to win a rally, because a Rally 2 car can win it. If a Rally 2 car can win a championship, what's the point? I get it, but it's going to be a souped-up Rally 2 car, so what can be done instead, he said. It comes back to Neuville's point about stability. Radically revamping those technical regulations this quickly is not necessary. He said, in the time from now for 2027, we should keep the current manufacturers in the championship and follow their suggestions. We should use that time to get all the manufacturers in the world on the table and ask one question: who's interested? And you're going to see maybe 20 out of 30. Only 7 or 8 are putting their hand up interested. All the others can leave. Okay, what do you guys need? What are your expectations to join the championship? And then you're going to find out. Some might be reasonable, some might be possible, technically interesting, and I mean there could be a budget cap. There can be a limited number of people in a team, but it goes, there can be some alternative technologies, as they do in Dakar, which has worked there. Then you have a one-on-one. Then you have 1 to 1.5 years to draft the regulations. Once the regulations are drafted, manufacturers are going to say, okay, sounds interesting. And he said, it goes on to say, Rally 2, as a plus concept, is trying to solve one key problem: the lack of depth on that entry list. The WRC 2 entry list has been a roaring success, but single-digit entries for the fastest rally cars in the world has become the norm. That's not something we want to see. An issue with Neuville's thinking, it says, is that all eyes should be on the new regulations and simply not bothering with Rally 2 Plus at all, and negating the current entry list problems. Okay, Neuville's alternative idea, it says, is to get more front-running cars before a potential 2027 overhaul is a simple one. Get the current Rally 1 manufacturers around the table and get them to commit. You have 2 manufacturers who are spending a lot of money per year, Neuville pointed out. And then you have Ford, which has a car running, but there's no investment needed anymore. And Ford has the budget to run the car with some good drivers. But if you have the 2 biggest manufacturers in the world, Toyota and Hyundai, why you don't say, okay, listen, what do you need for those coming years to stay within the championship and to engage an additional car? It's not a big part of the budget in the season to add 1 car, so what's needed for the manufacturer to bring more cars for at least the next 2 years? I thought that's quite interesting. And it goes, I mean, yeah, it's a massively long article. One thing I think, he's basically saying, do not rush these technical regulations. It's obviously very, very complicated. What I do feel, though, is with Rally, between 25 and 26, there is every potential with this new point system, etc. If they don't do something sooner, I think, rather than later, but not too radical, they can lose fans. And at the moment, when you've got Formula 1 is Formula 1 at the moment, really, apart from the off-track action, it's very boring. And what you'd want is more motorsport fans to come to Rally. And if Formula 1 is boring again next year, but you've potentially got, more competition in Rally, you could have more of a crossover of fans. Now, whilst I appreciate it is a very different motorsport, I was an F1 fan first before I came to Rally, so I am one example of what could happen. I love Rally, but I must digress. There is not enough at the top. And over the next 2 years, that could potentially be sorted a tiny bit. So I still think for 25, 26, carry on, and then maybe go with Neuville's plan about speaking to the manufacturers for 2027. It's kind of like sticking a plaster over it, knowing that you're going to have the cure you're going to have the complete cure in a couple of years' time. Let us know what you think though. That'll be really interesting. Like and subscribe if you can. That'll be amazing. Stay tuned for more WRC news as we head into the Safari. Thank you very much.